Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothills Paint Fabrication. Well, we're right back on Project Ruby, and we have Ruby's right front fender. We finished up Ruby's wheel well lip on the last video, and today we're going to go ahead and tackle this area right here. It is kind of a mess. It's got a lot going on. There's some slide hammer marks here. I think we have about 10 holes, or 9 or 10 holes. The molding holes that hold the rocker molding on, they look like somebody took a can opener to them. And then of course we have a big old hole right here from rust, from the brace underneath. I think it just attracted a bunch of junk, stayed in there, stayed wet, and it rusted from the inside out. So let's get in close, kind of take a look at it, decide what I want to do here. Do I want to tackle each one individually, or do we just want to whack this whole thing off and put that patch on there? So let's take a look at it and see how bad it is. Okay, so like I said, we have a rust hole right here. Not too big. We could section that out right there and just put a patch in there. These holes right here, fairly easy to fix. I can cut a little patch and just weld that and clean that up and hammer it all. The rocker molding goes right here. Up here we have a bunch of holes where they use slide hammer on it. And then we've got one hole up here for a slide hammer. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I can feel it's uneven, and it's going to take some work to get that straightened out, but our patch won't reach that high, and I wouldn't want to go that high anyways. But I think the worst part about this whole thing is this body line right here. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but let me get out of the, there we go. But this body line is a mess. It goes up and down, in and out. It's horrible. All this was body filler. It was reconstructed with body filler. So, and obviously I want to use the least amount of body filler as possible. And so I think this body line is telling me, let's just go ahead and cut this off as high as we can for what we have a patch from, and then we'll replace this whole piece. But first things first, we got to straighten this up quite a bit. I'm probably going to take care of this hole right here and get this hammered out like we were going to try to save it. And then we can start thinking about where we're going to cut to fit that panel. Now that panel I have is off the donor car, and I put a tilt front end on that, and that was the part that didn't move. The rest of the fender rolled up, and that was a million years ago. I was, I don't know, 19, I think, when I did it, 20. And I had great ideas than I had time, skill, and money. But that was the whole plan on that. But that patch will come in really handy. I wish it was a little longer, but it's not, so we'll work with what we got. Okay, I ran some sandpaper over it just to kind of expose what we're working with here. So we've got a crease right here, low spot, little low spot over here, which is going to be really hard to get to because that brace runs right there. There's a small hole in the brace. I think we might be able to push up on that. Not bad over here. I can feel a little tiny something. But here's the slide hammer hole, and it looks like they didn't use a drill bit to drill and then screw the slide hammer in. It's like a volcano on the other side, so I think they just took an awl and a hammer and just drove it right through there, which that's really not a horrible way. Slide hammer is not a good way anyways, but to just drive that in like that, it makes the screw grip really well. But the problem is then you're puckering all that sheet metal in, and maybe that's what they wanted to do, to try to eat up some of the extra sheet metal so they could slather on some body filler. But we're not horrible. I mean, along this plane right here, it feels really good. Not bad here, got a little low spot, but we can reach that. The brace is not right behind that piece there. So I'm gonna flip it over and try to get these volcanoes tapped down. I wanna bring all that material back to the center of that hole. And I'll do that real quick off camera. And then I think we'll get a hammer and dolly and a slapper over here. Really loving those slappers. They really spread out the load and allows me to do a large area pretty easily. So, and keeps me from making huge mistakes. Let me flip this over real quick. We'll get all these holes kind of straightened out a little bit, and then we'll see about getting some of these dents out. Okay, we got that. I was able to get that metal squished back in. I can't even see through the hole anymore. So we're gonna get the TIG welder out and just weld that up just a little tiny bit. I might even do it from the back side, but we're looking pretty good. I did hammer some of these dents out a little bit from the other side while I had it flipped over, so it's actually not looking too bad right now. So I'm not gonna, I've showed you some hammer and dolly work on the quarter panel, so I'm not gonna really go through that here. But what I'm gonna do is I'll speed through this real quick. You'll just see me tapping around some of these areas. I've got this big dolly right here, and it's pretty close to the shape of this, so that's it's coming in really handy. So let's just go after this a little bit, and then we'll sand it and see where we're at. I don't know if you guys can see, but you can see all these heavy grinder marks where they just kind of ground this whole area up. So there's quite a bit of texture here, but let's go ahead and get after it. Okay, we're not looking too bad. We're not feeling too bad either. This one is still slightly there. That's a little high right there, a little low right there, still a little low right there. Let's keep after it. So I'm gonna push up right here and hammer down right here because that's low and that's high. I'm lifting up pretty hard. Okay, this is feeling really good up here. I'm liking that quite a bit. I mean, it feels really good. Little tiny lows here and there, not a huge deal. It's a little high right here, right where that slide hammer hole was, but when I weld that, it's gonna pull and shrink, so I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. I don't wanna try to get it perfect, then weld it and have to rehammer it. And we got a little bit of line right here, but I can't hardly even feel that. Little low spot there, but it's behind the brace. Now this edge right here, it's pretty good until right about here, and then it starts to get a little weird. So we'll worry about that at a later date. We got a low spot here. We might be able to use that stud gun and pull up on that a little bit. I don't know, but we'll worry about that at a later date. Right now I need to work this out a little bit. That piece will come up to right about here, I think. So we need to straighten all this out like we were gonna save it, and that way we have a nice clean piece of sheet metal to put that patch to. I'm gonna do that off camera, and I'll bring you back when we got this thing looking halfway decent, that we can start thinking about getting that patch in here. Okay guys, here's your update. I've worked this a lot more than I had planned, and it's actually looking really good. Now the limiting factor was that body line, and I don't know if you guys can see, but I put a Sharpie along there, and I started picking out all the little bad spots, and it's looking pretty good. I got to about here. Now, this area right here still needs work. It dips right there. I can feel it. So I'm going to pick at that, and then I'm going to wire wheel all the ink out of all these holes where the slide hammer was, and I'm going to TIG weld all those shut and kind of see where we're at. Now, I know I said I was going to chop this off, but I'd rather not if I don't have to. So if I can pick that up and then kind of get this looking nice, then it's going to all take body filler anyways. So I think that's what I want to do. And then we'll just have to do a patch right here. We'll just cut this out right here and put a chunk in there. We can patch these holes with any old piece of sheet metal, so that's no problem. And then that'll kind of save the majority of this fender instead of me slicing it off and having to deal with the brace underneath that's spot welded to it and everything else involved in that. If we can save this, it is a little bouncy right here. I did shrink it a couple times when I was working on it because this really took a lot of abuse with that slide hammer, where there was 9 slide hammer holes here, and when you use the slide hammer it really stretches the metal out. So yeah, let me just do that. I'll fiddle with that a little bit, see what I can do on this body line. I certainly need the practice on straightening out body line, so I think that's what we'll do.
2 hours later.
Okay guys, put a lot of work into this. It better be worth it. So, and I think it is. I would have rather save it than, you know, put a seam across there. So this is actually a better deal in the long run. It has a lot of texture in it. I mean, run your hand over it, it feels like a pimply mess, but it does have really good shape. And the body line, let's see if I can get an angle on this for you. So you can see the body line is much improved all the way. So it's looking pretty good. It's a little low over here, and I was really messing with it, but things started to go a little sideways, so there will be a little filler right there, not much, and it's a little droops a little bit right here, so that this little spot right here is low. So once that's filled, that'll bring that back up, and we can make that look really nice. So it was a lot of work. I'm not going to kid you guys. This is hours of work, and I had to get medieval on it a couple of times with the big slapper and a dolly, and I just went at it. And I had to shrink it multiple times, maybe as many as 25 little micro shrinks with that spot welder, just hitting it really quick, not a lot of heat, just I hit a little all over those little tiny high spots from all that slide hammer work. So it worked out, it's solid, no oil can, it's laying really flat, so I'm pretty happy about that. Let's go ahead and spray some wax and grease remover on it, and so you guys can see how it looks. Okay, let me get a good angle. I'll move the camera around a little bit. So you guys can see it's got really good shape now. There's no, you know, big waves or anything. You can see the texture in it. I know it's hard to see with the welder and everything, but see the shadow kind of change shape right there? So we got a little low spot over there. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong. But it's got really good shape, and especially along that body line right there, it's got a really nice, good shape. So I'm pretty happy. It's going to take filler. If you see the body, see the lights, see how they change shape as it goes through. So you know, it's far from perfect, but it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's go ahead and wipe that off, and I'll show you real quick how I sweetened up that body line. Okay, so what I did was, this is a piece of angle iron. I found it in my junk bin. It's 3/16 thick, I think. I don't think that's quarter, by 1 by 1 by 1, or 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. So I filed it and sanded it on the belt sander over there, nice and flat. And then I clamped it over the top of it. It doesn't have to be right on the body line because this is basically a dolly. Then I flipped the fender over and I took a Sharpie from one point to the other where I knew, and I drew a nice straight line that I could follow. Then I took, this is a piece of rebar, but it could be rod, old screwdriver, whatever you got, and I ground a nice radius on here so it kind of matched this body line, okay, the radius on this body line. And then all I did was I went and I felt with my finger, and I found every one of those little pimples on the other side. It was sticking up, and I put this on right on the line. Very light taps, super light taps. I pushed down with my hand, but just barely tapped and kept checking, and I just worked my way all the way down. Then I flipped the fender over and put this piece of angle iron right on that Sharpie line, so it matched the body line. Then I came onto this side, and then I took the hammer, this side of the hammer, very lightly, super lightly, and I tapped all those high spots down. And I just kind of kept working at that, and with the Sharpie line on both sides, I was able to get that line up and down and in and out, straightened out. So, and it worked out. Once I got that, I knew I needed to keep working up here. So, because really this was the reason I was giving up on this part up here. So once I got that, I worked up maybe about 1 inch and got that really good. Then I started coming down, you know, like I like to do. I worked my way to the middle. So, and that's where we're at right now. So it came out pretty good. So let's move over down to this this rust hole down here and figure out how much we got to cut out and make a patch panel for that. Okay, so this area right here is rusted, obviously. But there's some pinholes here, and if I push on them with an awl, that just went right through. So that just looked like a little low spot, but it pushed right through with no problem. There's another one here, and I could push right through. So I know this is paper thin right here, even though it looks good, and we've got another one over here. So this patch is starting to migrate towards this edge right here. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but see this low spot right here? Well, that's supposed to be bent out. That's supposed to be straight right there, and it's not. Then we've got some dents right here, and this body line right here kind of has some kinks in it. So, you know, we could box this out. With this rust right here, chances are we need to go all the way over here to get to some good material. And then we'll come up over and then back over like that. So we're going to have a rectangular patch, or we make an L shape. We just come over and come down and take the piece down all the way underneath here. Now it is spot welded to the brace right there, but I can drill those out. We're not going to save it. And then I can just slice off a little chunk and put it in here. So that's the direction I'm kind of leaning. I'm going to take the cutoff wheel and just kind of cut a hole right here and see if this creeps up anywhere. I've been pushing up here and I don't see anything, but I'd kind of like to slice a chunk out of there just real quick to take a peek up inside there and see where we're at. So let me knock that out real quick, and then we'll kind of poke our eyes up in there and see what's going on, and then we'll decide what size patch, how big a patch we want to do. Okay, let's take a look at this. I don't know if you guys noticed, but yeah, Mark is still trying to make his concrete floor blue everywhere. I got to get a new bluing bottle. That one's just horrible. The top keeps popping off. So if this piece right here is just flipped up, so these match right here. So as you can see on the left here, it's actually getting into pretty good material. We would need to go just a little bit bigger on this side and the top. But over here, we'd have to go at least a ½ inch, maybe 3/4, a little bit farther, because you can see how bad that is right there. And the bottom, we'd have to go a little bit lower too. So the patch is going to get, you know, considerably bigger. So I'm thinking with all the other damage here, we have this dent. I don't know if you guys can tell. See this body line? See how that kind of curves in? It's because that's dented in right there. And that happened when this got dented in. So that's supposed to be flush across there, you know, just a 90. And you can tell up here on our patch piece off the donor car, see how that folds down and see how nice and clean that line is right there? That's how it's supposed to look. So we'd have to rework this pretty good to even get this close to what that one is. So I think what I want to do is come across here somewhere over and then down, and then we'll come all the way down over to here. It'll clear the brace so we can hammer this weld a little bit. We won't be able to hammer that weld because the brace is in the way, and it will probably pucker down a little bit. It's going to take some filler. The rocker molding does go through this area, but you know, I don't want to rely on rocker moldings to cover up my work, but if it saves me a little bit, you know, that's a good thing. So I think that'll clean up this body line right here, and it'll, you know, fix this problem, and it'll take care of a few things at once. So I think instead of just putting a rectangle in here, we're going to cut like that and take that piece out. A couple of spot welds down here to cut, but that's no big deal. So we should be pretty good. And then we'll have to figure out how to get this piece on here. We can't just cut this piece and lay it on here and scribe it, because the bracket and everything, all this bend, it's going to hold it over this way, and that side is going to hold it that way. So it's not going to be accurate. So we have to, you know, make a paper template to do what we want to do. So let's go ahead and get to work on that. We have a couple of templates to make. This shape right here needs to be documented. So when I put my patch on here, this thing is at the right shape. So when it goes back on Ruby, these body lines match the door and the rocker on the car. So let me make up some templates real quick, and then I'll bring you right back. Okay, I got my templates made up. The first one I did was this one, so I can make sure when I put this piece on, it matches the original profile. So what I have here is, this is off of here, the old one, and this is off the new piece that we're going to be cutting to put over here. So if I hold these up here on the reference marks, you can see that matches, right? Now if I put the one that we're about to put on here and put it to the reference marks, they're different. So you can see that line is more exposed. This one dips in deeper right here. It could be anything. It could be manufacturer. It could be that this one has been in an accident, the other one hasn't. Different type of the year, maybe a different plant. I don't know, but they are different. So, you know, that kind of puts us in a tough spot. Luckily, we're not taking this whole piece out. We're only taking a small piece. So I'm going to probably use this reference because this one hasn't been hit, but we'll figure that out as we go and see where it wants to lay. Now, to make a patch for something like this, like I mentioned earlier, you just can't cut a piece and then hold it up there and scribe it. It's just not going to work. So this is our patch right here, okay? So I've just got some manila folder, right? And I bent a nice straight line right to match this right here on the bottom, okay? So that's kind of my part where that locks me in. So I have a mark over here, so I make sure it's lined up perfectly, and we bend that over the top, and this corner right here is going to go. So what I did was I kind of Sharpied out an area I thought I liked. I ran the lines long so I could transfer it on here. I laid this up here, and it was just a matter of some straight edge and a Sharpie. And then this is our patch. I left this open right here, and I left this piece to give me a little more something to stick the magnets and the clothespins to. So basically what we have here is we line it up on the corner, stick some magnets on here, clothespin, and it holds it right where it needs to be. So I have this corner right here lined up right with the edge, so that's kind of like a little peak. That's my reference. So I'm going to slide this around and get it exactly where I want it, and then we're going to scribe this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this same piece and transfer that to this piece right here and do the exact same thing. So in theory, the patch should match, okay? Now, it's probably not going to be perfect, but this is the best way I've found to do this. Otherwise, you're trying to measure and use a, like a square and, figure it out. It never works that way for me. So this is really worked out best for me in the long run. Okay, I got it in position. I kind of marked it, put the Sharpie down, and then got this template laid up so it's just flush right here, and it's lined up right across that where it's broke over right there. So that's my best reference for this particular patch. So I'm going to go ahead and scribe it, and then we'll do the exact same thing on the patch piece. Okay, we got that piece out of there. It was pretty good material right at our cut, so I think we're fine to TIG weld that on. It shouldn't be a big deal. And I got the other piece cut, and of course when I cut this piece I cut on the inside of the line, and when I cut the patch I cut on the outside of my scribe, so it should be pretty much exactly the right size. Now I haven't deburred this or anything. I'll try not to cut myself, but this seems to be fitting pretty good. We're actually maybe just a little big, which is good. So the next step will be to deburr this, and then make sure these lines are nice and straight, and then we can start sanding this piece to match. So that'll be my next job on this. I'm not going to bore you with that. So we're going to clean these up, get these Sharpie lines off here so I can see a lot clearer, and then we'll slowly sand this one till it fits right up on here just like it's supposed to. So let me take care of that. I'll bring you back after we get this thing fitted up, and we'll take a close look at it. Okay, all fitted up. I actually went to lunch and came back, and it's looking pretty good. I think it's going to come out really nice. So this patch did come out just a little long this way, very little, and it was considerably too tall this way. So you see I've got a piece of angle iron clamped on here. Now this body line is perfectly straight, so I clamped it right up to it. That way I could drop this and clamp this piece right to that, so I knew I would land in the same spot every time when I kept checking it back and forth. So it's actually clamped to this right now. We've got two clamps down there holding it. So it's flat across this plane, and we're flush right here. It's a little high back here. It's perfect right here. So that brace is right here, so I can't really get a clamp in there very easily. Right now I've got it clamped right here through that hole, so it's flush right there. I've got a screwdriver back behind it, pushing on the brace and just jammed in there, and that's perfectly flush, and we're flush right here. So I think we'll get the TIG welder out, get a 3 tacks right here, then we can release that, maybe move it, and then start getting these all flushed out and tacked, and then we'll be ready to weld. I do not want to weld this or that ear down there until I get this face done, because I can still bend this, this way or that way, and if I tighten those up, then they're going to bind up. So if anything, I could pull them open, bend it up, cut a little out, and bend it back down to get this shape, just what I want. And I still have that template up here, and I've checked it, and it's looking really good just as it's sitting right now. So we're going to go ahead and get tacked up, and then get these tacked up and get it welded, and then see where we land. Okay, it's tacked together. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to check it with a straight edge. It's feeling pretty good. Grind these down just a little bit, and we'll go ahead and weld it. I'll keep it clamped up while I'm welding, and then we can see about checking it, make sure it's laying where it's supposed to. Hammer it if we need to, and then get these other tabs welded, and we'll be done. Okay, looks pretty good. Don't see any major warping or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and grind this, and then I got to get these clamps out of the way. I'll grind it up, and then we can check the profile, make sure it matches everywhere, and then we can get the ends welded up, and that patch will be done. Okay, so the profile's good, but we do have some warpage right here. It kind of doinked in really bad, popped up right here. The brace is right there, so I think I can put something underneath there and pry up and then tap down right there. So we're gonna have to work that out a little bit. But before I start hammering, I wanna go ahead and get these welded right here. Since the profile is right, everything's straight across here. I'll get that one welded up, I'll get this one welded up, we'll get that hammered, and then it's about, all we have to do is spot weld that brace to the sheet metal here, and we'll be just about done with this one. All right, guys, we got that dip out of there and that high spot. I was able to stick a screwdriver in there and pry up and then tap around there. Got that worked out. It's looking pretty nice across there. Got the ends welded up and ground, so they're looking really nice, both of them. And even fixed the holes. So those holes look more like keyholes. So I got them all fixed up. I made a template off the other fender and then located the holes. I think this fender was so far out of position that they had to kind of cut those slots in there to get the rocker molding where the little screws or bolts go through to fit. And hopefully we do not have that problem when we go to put everything together. So we'll probably dry fit everything when this thing's still in primer, rocker moldings and everything, to make sure everything lines up just right. And then we'll know for sure if we got to move these holes around a little bit. But it is looking good. So we went from 9 slide hammer, actually 10 slide hammer holes to got this all worked out, and I'm pretty happy with it. The body line right here came out really nice, and we got all this fixed up. So that section of the fender is done. We only have, I don't know, 3 or 4 more to go. Okay guys, that pretty much wraps up this video on the fender and a very long day. It's really dark outside and I'm tired of being in the shop working on this darn old fender. So it came out really well. I'm happy we didn't do the whole big lower patch piece, even though it might have been less work in the long run. I'm glad that I actually brought this back and took care of all those slide hammer holes and everything else. The patch wouldn't have taken out all of the holes, so I think this actually probably worked out better in the long run. It did put up quite a bit of fight though, and then somewhere during the repair, it became me against the fender, and you know, it won a few battles, but I think I won the war. It came out really nice. The body line looks good. It's going to need body filler. There's no two ways about it, but you know, and we'll figure out how good I did once we get to the body filler stage. In the end, all we had to do was a little patch down in the corner, got the holes fixed up, got the rest of it taken care of, and I think it looks in really good shape. So I'm really happy with the outcome. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.